In a remote tale from 1001 Nights, it is said that there once was a wealthy merchant who traveled for trade. One day, overcome by the intense heat, he sat beneath a tree. He took some food from his bag, ate a piece of bread and a date. After finishing the date, he threw away the pit. Suddenly, a tall Ifrit appeared, holding a sword, and approached the merchant, saying, "Stand up so I may kill you, just as you killed my son." The merchant, terrified, replied, "How did I kill your son?" The Ifrit said, "When you ate the date and threw its pit, it struck my son in the chest and killed him instantly." The merchant pleaded, "Know, O Ifrit, that I am a man in debt. I have wealth, children, a wife, and obligations. Allow me to return home, settle my affairs, repay every person their due, and then I will come back to you. I give you my oath and covenant that I shall return. Do with me as you wish, and God is witness to what I say."
The Ifrit accepted his pledge and released him. The merchant returned to his town, settled all his debts, returned rights to their owners, and informed his wife and children of what had happened. They wept, as did all his family. He remained with them until the end of the year. Then he shrouded himself as if preparing for death, bid farewell to his family and neighbors, and set out willingly toward his fate. He arrived at the garden where he had first met the Ifrit. On that day, as he sat weeping over his impending doom, an old man approached, leading a gazelle. He greeted him and asked why he was sitting alone in such a place, known as a dwelling of jinn. The merchant told him his story. The old man, astonished, said, "Your case is truly a great one, and your story is astonishing. If it were written with needles upon the corners of the eyes, it would serve as a lesson to all who reflect." He sat beside him, saying he would not leave until he witnessed what would happen.
As they waited, the merchant fainted from fear and distress. Then a second old man arrived, accompanied by 2 hunting dogs, and after hearing their story, he too sat with them. Shortly after, a third old man arrived, riding a mule. He too learned of the merchant's plight and joined them. Suddenly, a cloud of dust rose in the distance, followed by a violent storm. As it cleared, the Ifrit appeared, sword drawn, eyes blazing with fury. He seized the merchant and declared, "Stand up so I may kill you, just as you killed my son and the apple of my heart." The merchant burst into tears, and the 3 old men also began to weep and wail in sorrow.
The first sheikh, owner of the gazelle, then turned to the Ifrit. He kissed his hand and said, "O Jinni, crown of the kings of the jinn, if I tell you my story with this gazelle, and you find it wondrous, will you grant me 1/3 of this merchant's blood?" The Ifrit replied, "Yes, O sheikh. If your story is indeed astonishing, I will grant you 1/3 of his blood." So the first sheikh began, "Know, O Ifrit, that this gazelle is my cousin, of my own flesh and blood. I married her when she was young, and I lived with her for about 30 years, yet I was not blessed with any children from her. So I took another wife, and she bore me a son, a boy like the full moon, bright-eyed, well-shaped, and perfectly formed. He grew until he reached 15 years of age. Then I had to travel to one of the cities for trade, leaving behind my household. This cousin of mine, the gazelle, had learned magic and sorcery from a young age. While I was away, she cast a spell upon my son, transforming him into a calf, and she turned his mother into a cow. She handed them over to a shepherd.
After a long journey, I returned and asked about my son and his mother. She told me, 'Your servant has died, and your son ran away. I do not.'
I remained for a year in grief, my eyes filled with tears, until the feast of sacrifice came. I sent for a fat cow to be brought to me. The shepherd brought me one, but it was my bewitched servant, the one this gazelle had transformed. I prepared to slaughter it, but it cried out and wept bitterly. I was moved and told the shepherd to slaughter it instead. When he did, he found nothing but skin and bones, no flesh, no fat. I regretted it deeply, though regret was of no use. I gave it to the shepherd and said, 'Bring me a fat calf.' He then brought me my son, who had been turned into a calf. When the calf saw me, it broke free, came running to me, clung to me, and cried and wailed. My heart softened, and I said to the shepherd, 'Bring me a cow instead, and leave this one.'"
But what secret will the shepherd reveal? And will the merchant escape death? This is what we'll find out in part 2. Subscribe and like to watch the next episode.